Well, again, I thank you for attending the next event that is part of the International Studies Day. The presentation is called Educational Aspects in Ukraine Today in the Context of the War. And Hanna Vlasova, a Fulbright Fellow and SIA instructor, has graciously accepted to do this presentation for us. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Hello everyone. So I'm really grateful to be invited here and to present information about education system in Ukraine. The content of my presentation is here. So I will tell a few words about myself, and after this I will tell about the education system in Ukraine before the war and during the war. I will tell a little example about my university, which was relocated twice because of the war, and it's really interesting example of university's experience. So about myself, if you could hear, my name is Hanna Vlasova. I completed my bachelor degree and master degree in Holyka Institute of Foreign Languages in Ukraine, my major is Ukrainian language and literature, English language, and foreign literature. So now I'm a Fulbright scholar and I'm a full TA, so foreign language teaching assistant. And I'm teaching Ukrainian language and culture here during this academic year. So, first of all, if we will speak about education system in Ukraine in general, it's very different from the education system in the US. If we speak about universities, most of public universities are free for most students in Ukraine. But students cannot choose classes. So each university has a specific appropriate program, and students should choose their major when they choose their university, and they cannot change it during their study. They cannot choose classes. Probably they can choose 1 or 2 classes per semester, but as usual it's not so important for their majors. For example, when I studied my major, I could choose, for example, the history of Ukrainian language, or the Slavic language, like Old Slavic language, or, for example, the history of children literature, or something like this. So, but they are not necessarily connected with my major. If we speak about the education system in general, before the war, in 2005 year, Ukrainian changed the education system and turned to Bologna process. That's why Ukrainian higher education is very close to European higher education area. But after the war, we have a lot of changes. So here is not the list dates about how much is occupied territory, but it's the numbers is higher now, but it's the best which I found in English to compare with other countries' territory. So as we can see, more than 20% of Ukrainian territory are in a war action now, and it's of course changed the education process too. Because of this, we can see that a lot of high schools and universities were destroyed, and on this map you can see that a lot of schools and higher educational departments was destroyed in Kharkiv, Donetsk and Lugansk region, as the eastern part of Ukraine, and also in Kyiv and Kherson region, whatever. So, because all Ukraine are under attack every day and night, cities, towns, and villages, they could be bombed anytime and destroyed. That's why a lot of Ukrainian teachers and students, they cannot, so their access to educational departments are limited, and that's why access of the students to knowledge and to studies are also limited or absent. Here on this illustration you can see kind of photo session in Kharkiv. It should be like the day of graduation, of this school graduation, but the school where it should be was already destroyed at that moment, and the students just decided to create this kind of photos with like these sad memories. In general, now there are a lot of changes on all levels of education, and here we can see a lot of photos which showed how the process of education is going right now. A lot of academics, a lot of teachers and students, they are in military, and they have to study or teach when they have time between attacks or something like this. Also, teaching and learning process is going from bomb shelters and from other countries if students left the country before or whatever. Also, a lot of institutions and schools used for shelters for people who moved from occupied area, and so they are used like kind of a temporary decision for people who cannot find place to live in more safe regions. That's why also schools use simultaneously like for different kinds of people and for students who want to go to school and study. It's very hard also to study now because a lot of infrastructure was destroyed, and in some regions we have not enough energy, and a lot of schools cannot study all time because of lack of energy, and not all students cannot join the classes online, for example, or attend schools every day. Because of the war alarms, also students at school cannot study each day properly, and also they have to go to the bomb shelters during the school day, for example, if they have heard an alarm about their war action. And also students who moved abroad, they have also difficult time because they have to they have to go to their local schools, like in Germany or Austria or Poland, where their family moved, and it's their duty because they're kind of temporary citizens of this territory. But after this, because their parents is going to come back to Ukraine one day, after this they have to come back home and study in Ukrainian school, and so they have to prepare a lot of more homework, and so their mental health also not good at this time. I would like to say a few more words about my university. Holloway Institute of Foreign Languages was really famous in Ukraine before 2014. before the war action started in Donetsk and Luhansk area. After this, in 2014, this university was relocated the first time, and part of this university was based in Bakhmut. This is a city in the Donetsk region. Excuse me. And this is my hometown. Excuse me. This how Bakhmut looked like before the war. And this is now. So the university rebuilt in this city like after 2014 two buildings, like administration building and educational building for students, and also several dormitories. But now they look like this. So now the university is relocated in Dnipro, and they shared administration building with another university. But there is no place for study and for students, like dormitory or something like this. And that's why the university exists only online. So, and you can use this link and go to the university website, where you can see different programs and different courses for Ukrainian students and different activities which university tried to share with other universities and with our students. And after war started, I was doing my master's degree in the university, and I simultaneously taught Ukrainian language and foreign literature at the same university. And so it was really hard to do it online after war started, because we stopped education process in February 2022, but we continued education process at March, and it was really hard because we couldn't find a lot of students, and we had to call each student and ask if they are safe or where they are right now. So, and it's like kind of concluding slide in my presentation, and I wanted to tell that support of country is not only financial support, but also it's communication. And if you want, for example, to share your support with country, you can just do some small actions like talk with Ukrainians and share information about the war. Just listen to stories about the experience of these people and help to support mental health, because it's really important in this time. My presentation is short enough, but I also would be glad to answer any questions which you have about the education system of Ukraine. Thank you.
So, if you have any questions?
I want to make a comment and then ask a question. Thank you so much for your presentation. Right now, I work a lot with Ukrainian academics, remotely, obviously. And when I participate in events, conversations with Ukrainian academics, I find that this is an environment of such enthusiasm, positive energy, the desire to work, the desire to do things, that I go to those spaces not to offer emotional support, but to get emotional support, which I know is weird because I'm talking to people knowing that at any moment a missile can strike the people I'm talking to at any moment. That is difficult, that is heavy. But people have such a desire to work and create things and talk about things other than the war, talk about their research, talk about their books, their publications. And here in the United States we're safe, so we often forget about that and we start feeling sorry for ourselves. It really helps to engage with people and to see that there is an enormous amount of knowledge and enthusiasm for learning out there. In terms of international studies, Ukrainian is now one of the languages in which we offer 16 credit hours, which is the requirement for the foreign languages component of the program. We have Nicholas, who is pursuing our first pilot student who is doing that. He just completing right now his second semester of Ukrainian, and will start his third semester of Ukrainian in the fall. We're very excited about that. So I have a question for Hannah. I left Ukraine a long time ago, so I cannot make interesting comparisons that are not very historical in nature. So as you were teaching here in the United States, what is different about the students in Ukraine and here at SIV?
I would say here students more responsible, I guess, when they are doing their assignment or something like this, because I think they choose courses and they think about courses which they choose. In Ukraine, because they have to take some courses, a lot of students are not interested to study some courses. For example, if they choose their major like foreign language and literature, they really want to study foreign language, but they are not interested in literature. And when I used to teach foreign literature, for me it was really difficult to show students that it's interesting, it's necessary if you study language also to study literature. But they were not so motivated to study. Here students are more motivated as for me and more responsible.
Yes, I noticed that many international visitors say that. Once we brought an artist and a professor from Cuba to speak to our students, and he came to one of my classes and he spoke to students, and then he said, after the class, said, Olga, tell me honestly, what did you do to them to make them this way? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, what did you do to make them so quiet and interested and curious and taking notes? And I said, no, I didn't do anything. They are like that. These are American students. And he said, wow, your job is easy.
Question. So, first of all, before I take a question, I really give a quick support to coming out and talk about. It's really difficult, right? I get it, because you see the picture, I saw you were kind of emotional, and then I shared the emotion because I watched news almost every day what's going on in Ukraine. Even though I have no connection to Ukraine, I know what's going on out there. It's tragedy. Just want to let you know that all the Koreans are doing And the question that I have for you is that, so, all disruption, this tremendous disruption in education in Ukraine, right? How is going to affect the generations to come in Ukraine and Eastern Europe? What do you think? I mean, maybe, Professor Nastasia can comment there too, as a, Eastern European anyway, but start with you, what do you think?
It's an interesting question actually, because I think for students who are studying in the universities now, it's a really difficult period because a lot of students in universities which were relocated, they cannot have enough students' experience of life. They have to work, they have to find a job and survive somewhere. And education, it's like just their background, somewhat like in their life, and they don't pay a lot of attention for this right now. That's why I think war make really a big negative impact for education. So these students are probably will not so prepared for their future job probably, but at the same time they will be more prepared for life, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. I cannot compare what happens in Romania, and I left, 23 years ago. A war situation is a crisis situation by definition, and whoever lives into such reality lives a disrupted reality. So, of course, they are thinking about surviving, first of all. Why would you learn for the future to become a teacher, to become this, to become that, when you don't know if you'll survive the week? So I'm sure that they are thinking for survival, for having some relationships that are relevant for them personally, for their own souls, rather than for the society or for the family, or maybe they're taking care of the family too. It's good that there is a lot of support for Ukraine. I try to help as much as possible. In the past 2 years, I had a contributor from the SUNY University, and it was at that time we were doing it online. Last year we had a journalist from Washington DC who is from Ukraine. If you are interested, and you can look on our Facebook page, SIUE INTS, and you go to last year, kind of the same period of time. I post the videos that I record, transformed into MP4, and I post them on the YouTube channel, and you can watch what was discussed at that time. Because this journalist is now working in Washington DC. She's from Ukraine, and she's an award-winning journalist. I don't remember her name now, but you can look back. Do you remember from last year?
I remember a great speaker. I don't remember the name.
Yeah.
Was it Ksenia Turkova?
Ksenia Turkova.
Yeah.
Yes. Ksenia Turkova. Yeah, and I think she works for CNN or something like that. She's an important journalist, and she makes all the time, videos about what's going on in Ukraine and how people can help, and so on and so forth. But I was trying to ask. What is now the reality for the SUNY University? 2 years ago we were discussing with the faculty from over there. She has part of her life in Seattle, but I saw that they were very proud of what solutions they could find for really keeping their students online. And in the online environment, it was very interactive and interesting. I don't know what kind of software they were using, but they had a holographic projection of her and an African-American professor from the United States as pillars of the presentation, moving in the presentation online. So do you know something about that?
I don't really know about this software or something like this, but as you know, we also, like in my university, for example, we also try to keep students online, and for this we use a lot of different online resources for doing our classes more interesting for them and more interactive, and also we try to find the best solution for students who are working right now, and that's why we have classes with them not only during the daytime but even at night, or whenever they want to have class, we join and we have this class like when they choose it. And it's like one of the possible solutions for each professor. And the problem is also that there are a lot of professors who are not really worked with computers before when they taught at the universities, and for them it's so difficult to change their habits and to learn how to use all the kind of stuff like Zoom and all other, and even if they had this experience before during COVID and during like lockdown, they also had to change their habits because now they had to teach only online, and it's really difficult for them. So, but we try to find really good platforms for have like all education process online.
I remember last year that journalist was showing us the image of one professor, I don't remember from what university, that was photographed while sitting in a trench, dressed in military gear, and trying to get online because in that few minutes of stop in the war, he had to teach somebody through an internet connection from the trench. So that was something.
Yeah, I was at one remote event where The professor who was presenting was in the occupied territories, and we were extremely worried for him because if somebody finds out that he's teaching something in Ukrainian from the occupied territories, that would not end well for him. But he was so charming and so engaging. And I think being able to teach and being able to escape from the reality of the war through teaching and engaging with people professionally, that helps, because you just cannot sit there always feeling fearful. You need to be doing something and contributing to your profession, and that was very inspirational.
Now I was thinking that this is maybe for, depending on your personality, this could be a virtual reality for you. Usually people retire in reading books or doing something academic when they suffer in the rest of the society. That's what happened during communism. People were reading more. Now they are, more tempted by the luxuries of life. So not so many people are reading books. But what's happening in Ukraine? Are people, some of them, going back into doing things the old way, like reading books, or?
I would say no. A lot of students don't like read books, and I think Ukrainians in general we read not a lot, mostly, because I noticed here, for example, and even when I visited Poland, I noticed a lot of large bookshops, even in small towns or small cities. But in Ukraine, it's difficult to find a really good large bookshop, even in good developed city. So a lot of people read online, or they just watch some videos on YouTube or in some educational platforms, but they not really read books. And that's why I'm struggle with my foreign language classes, foreign literature classes in Ukraine, because I want to make students to read and to analyze, and I want to show them that it's interesting, but not all of them really believe in it. And I'm really glad when I see that during the semester some students started to read, fortunately, but a lot of them just try to find a better solution, just to find like short version of the book, or for example just watch a video with explanation, because they think that life it has like very fast pace, and that's why we have to find something better than just reading books.
So you are talking that a lot of people are online for one reason or another, but how is the internet provided to people?
Actually, yes, we have the desktop to internet is really available everywhere. I mean, like we can buy internet. It will be like really cheap. I mean, maybe $3 per month. So for a family, I mean, and it will be fine. And you can use any kind of websites, and it's really easy to find movie or book, and it's really easy to find content. Only one point is that a lot of Russian websites are banned now because of the war, but it's understandable, and all other stuff is really available to use.
So is education now kind of being banned a little bit in Russian for younger generations?
I mean, I would say mostly education, like even during my education life, I mean, all education process was in Ukrainian language. But if you want to find some information in Russian in internet, it was fine. Even now, if you will find something in Russian, it will be okay. But websites which connected with news or with political life in Russia, and if they are from Russia, they are banned, but they are not connected as usual with education. So, but even now, if students want to find something in Russian, they can do it, and it's possible to find something. It's not really appropriate for education system because everything is in Ukrainian, and it's not only now. Like even when I studied at school, all my classes at school was in Ukrainian. So it's a really long process, but a lot of people just didn't change their habits since the Soviet Union, and when they studied Russian in the Soviet Union times, they just continue speaking Russian.
So Ukrainian now is written in Latin alphabet?
Yeah,
Or
no,
Cyrillic?
now we
Cyrillic?
use Cyrillic alphabet.
Cyrillic still.
Yes.
Okay. So, but I guess Russian and Ukrainian are not exactly the same, right? So how are people educated still in Russian to be able to read in Russian? From their families, if it's not the official system?
So, from the families, yes, because a lot of families, a lot of adults grow up in the Soviet Union and they learn Russian. So that's why even before the war we had a lot of books which were printed in Russian. So, and that's why my generation can really easy to read in Ukrainian and in Russian, because in the school and at the university we studied in Ukrainian, but at home we could read in Russian whatever we want. And also before the war, a lot of newspapers or magazines used both languages, like some articles were in Russian and some of them were in Ukrainian, in my region, for example. But the same situation, I guess, was with all other languages in other regions of Ukraine, like which were close to other countries. I mean, like in the western part of Ukraine, some people know Polish, for example, but they don't know. They don't really know Russian, like as well as I know, for example, and whatever. But now, and like students who are younger than me, they have troubles with spelling in Russian because they just hear Russian from their parents, but they learned Ukrainian alphabet. And I noticed a lot of situations when like children tried to write something in Russian because they used to speak Russian, but because if they learned only Ukrainian alphabet, it looks like Russian words in Ukrainian spelling, and it's like if you will read it, it will be not understandable at all.
So that's a small victory if Russian is fading away.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe Russian and Ukrainian is from the same
Yeah, I understand.
language, like Romanian and Italian.
Well, Romanian and Romance language.
Ukrainian is about as distant from Russian as like German is from English. They share about like 60% of the grammatical word roots, but it's like you can't read German like if you just know English,
Plus, as she was saying, there are regions that in the past were influenced by the Polish
Or
rule.
Hungary, the regions close to Hungary and they still speak the language. A very large country with many neighbors.
Even a little bit of Romania.
Exactly.
Towards Moldova or towards Bukovina.
Because somebody actually told me that. I say, I don't know much about, I don't know, like Russian or Ukrainian language, but I have a friend of mine who's Ukrainian. And then at the beginning of the war, the Russian invasion, he said he couldn't believe it. He had this hyper, he said, why USA would invade Canada? That's exactly how I put it. That's what he said. So it's like Canada, and the relationship between Canada, USA, and Russia and Ukraine is very similar. Share the culture, for a long history, and I know history, so the history is all combined. This is nothing to do with education now, but since we bring itself culturally,
Well,
that's what we say.
let me give you a counter example. When I was studying at the University in Bucharest, 1990 to 95, I had colleagues from Chisinau and other parts of Moldova. And they told me when they were young, their parents were banned from being able to be the mayor of the city or a doctor or an engineer because they were Moldovans or
Right, they're
Romanians.
in Russian, right?
They only preserved for Russians. So that's how they Russified
Right.
territory.
From the beginning, systematic.
Little by little, taking territory, saying now the population is Russian, and this gives us the reason to intervene because we're protecting our Russian population. But they moved populations.
And that's what they did in Georgia too. And they got what they did.
They were moving in Georgia the border every night. You would have your property as a peasant, and the next day you might be in Russia
Yeah.
because they moved your fence. They moved your fence during the night. The Romanian colleagues have a question for you.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for the presentation and taking into account that nowadays we are celebrating International Studies obtain Fulbright grant. It was difficult for you, taking into account that we are in different system, and if you could tell us some tips and tricks regarding the admission process, because of course we are interested too.
So the most important is to, when you just apply to the programs, the most important is to write really good essay, the most important point is to show that you are really motivated to have international experience, and you should show that Fulbright, it's not like your best dream, it's just step for you for another development, like for future development of your personality and career, and share this information which you got here in the US. I think it's like the most important point for a personal essay, and also you should probably write a lot about like your motivation, about your personal experience, and to share that you really want to join to American society, and after this it's really important to show that you want to share some information in your country when you will be back. So, and it's like the most important, I think, and also good recommendations, recommendation letters also will help you if you have some friends or some teachers who already was Fulbright scholar, and or some colleagues, and if they will write a recommendation letter for you, it will be really good for application. And also, if you have really good English from the very beginning, like when you will be introduced for the interview, it's also a good point. I hadn't, my English was awful when I just started the Fulbright program, and so it wasn't my best point. So, but if you have really good English speaking skills, it's the best option for the interviewing after applying. So I think like to write a really good motivated essay is like the best point.
And I know because my wife Diana, who is over there in the back, was a Fulbrighter from Romania in 2002, 2003, but she was already working for a university in Bucharest. So I know that, do they still have these rules in place? If you are the beneficiary of a Fulbright program, then you have to go back to the country of origin for 2 years?
Yes, after this.
But you can interrupt that for OPT if you are continuing with another degree, another master or something else.
Yes, according to my term, I have to go back after this May to Ukraine and stay in Ukraine and don't apply for Fulbright program or any other kind of program similar to Fulbright. But I can apply PhD or master degree or something like this during these 2 years, or even if you're like when you come to the US, you already can apply to PhD or master degree, and after this, for example, after your Fulbright program will end, you can come back to your country, change visa, and go to the US again.
But eventually you still have to do those 2 years back in the country of origin. You cannot get a deferment for Fulbright. It's very, very hard. That's what we had to do too. Yes, but she did it out of pieces, summers, and then she had to go for a whole year back.
Yeah, I think for me it was easier to apply to Fulbright because of the war in Ukraine,
Exactly.
and that's why all scholars there were more scholars from Fulbright this year than previous years. So that's why it was easier for me, and that's why my teacher from my university, I couldn't say that she just encouraged me to do this. She pushed me to apply that year because I worried about my family, because my family just stayed in the Bakhmut at that time, and I worried about them, and I didn't want to think about my future education or career or something like this, and I just worked at the university and call my mom each day just to check if they're okay. And my teacher, she just pushed me to apply Fulbright this year because it's better for me and a better opportunity for all Ukrainians that year.
I guess
There is right now a large shortage of Ukrainian Fulbrighters. For instance, I have already received my Fulbrighters in Swahili and in Arabic for the next academic year. In Ukrainian, I'm on a wait list. So they still do not have enough people. And last year I was also on a wait list with HANA. Finally, then I was given additional Fulbrighters, but there's a large demand right now.
I'm also wondering if they will be more lenient with giving waivers, given the tragic situation in Ukraine. I mean, they were saying at the time when I was a Fulbright, they would give a waiver just in a rare and extreme situation, but this is an extreme situation. There might be chances to maybe stay longer if that is an option for SIUE or even just stay here. For example, right now work with an organization called World Link that brings students that are a little younger, the students in the YES program, and there's another one. And initially those students came for a year, but now they're staying for college. So they came at 17, and they were allowed to stay in the US and do college degree, although that's usually not an option for these students.
Yeah, and that's a program for bringing students from high school level from
Yes.
other countries
Yeah.
into American families that want to support those students. So they will support the costs of transportation, of living, of education.
It's yes abroad and flex, actually.
Yes, abroad and flex. So how is your mom?
Almost fine now. So they moved they moved from Bakhmut in October or November of 2023, and it was really lucky because after maybe a week all connection with city was lost. So they were in Bakhmut till the end.
So now Bakhmut is in the Russian territory?
Yes, it's
Russian
like
control?
they controlled it, and it was really long battle in this city, and it was like already like now it's in Russian control, but it's already destroyed. So my mom and my family moved to the central part of Ukraine, to Kropivnitsk region, and we stayed there like together before I left to the US. So, but we have a lot of problem with renting an apartment. Like it's a big problem for Ukraine now. Like for people who moved from the war action, who were replaced. We cannot find options like to rent an apartment because a lot of people moved, and a lot of families have to rent new apartments, new houses and in safe territory, and it's really difficult to find some options.
Is the government still able to build something?
Kind of, like, yeah, like we have
Not
to,
fast enough.
yeah.
And they are getting involved into reorganizing these people, or they are just left on their own?
It depends. Like some volunteering organization could help to accommodate people and to help to survive them for first time, but there are not a lot of this kind of organization who can help with everything. And as usual, if people moved, and if some organization helped them, they can locate them in some kind of school or kindergartens, like for like to give them temporary decision. But it doesn't work for a long-term period. With my mom, so my mom, for example, my family, they moved without like help in any kind of organization. So they just paid for a driver, and he drive them from Bakhmut to the middle part of Ukraine. And now, we found an apartment which were really cheap but we rented it around a year. And after this, we had to change, and now we cannot find like really appropriate options because a lot of people, they just use the situation and they try to
increase the
trying to
prices.
increase prices, yes.
Scalpers or
So-
profiteers.
Uh, always difficult in this point. Yeah.
Do you think that the war has affected people like learning English in Ukraine? Like, do you think it's either like increased people like wanting to learn English, or like there's been an issue with like people being able to go to university or like go to school or anything like that?
It's a good question. I would say the war encouraged people to learn Ukrainian first of all, because a lot of people who used to speak Russian and who grow up in Russian-speaking society, they started to speak Ukrainian finally. And about English, I think the situation with learning English is almost the same which was before the war, because in Ukraine English is the most important, one of the most important school subjects. So, and in each school, all students have to learn English since the first or the second year at the school. And actually, in Ukraine, when I studied at school, it was available to have like the second foreign languages like Russian, for example. But now all students have to choose German or French or any other, but not Russian. Like the second foreign languages, but English still is the most important language after Ukrainian in Ukraine.
I was wondering, after the first wave, when the war started, there were millions of people leaving Ukraine, right? Especially mothers, young people, older people, or children, and then they were retaining the men, right? So I thought there was talk about 2.5 million Ukrainians leaving the countries, and they were placed in Romania, in Moldova, in Poland, most of them, and then some of them went to Austria, to Germany, and even France, Belgium, and so on and so forth. Sorry?
Spain.
Spain. So what happened to those people? Are they still there, or they came back?
It depends. Some of them are still there. I personally have some friends who moved to Poland because of the war, and they still are located in Poland, and they try to find any kind of job and just stay in Poland because it's more safe than to stay in Ukraine. And some people, they came back. A lot of people who could find any kind of job and any kind of apartment or something where they can live, they are still continue living in the foreign countries. And it's more difficult for children, as I told before, like because they like from the very beginning when their family moved to another countries, mostly they didn't know the language of this country. And I know, for example, some families which children was in the second year at school or the third year at school, and they moved to Austria, for example, and they had to go to Austrian school, and they never learned German before, and they never could speak in German before. And so it was really difficult for them because they had to study math or geography or anything in German, but they didn't know anything about country and language. But now they learned a little, and they still in these countries mostly. So mostly, you know, families with children, they try to do not move a lot because of the children, and to help them to learn more about the place where they are. But I know a lot of families also who couldn't find appropriate job or appropriate opportunities in other countries, they came back to the Ukraine. Mostly it's women also, or young people. As I know, like for example, men, it wasn't allowed for them to leave country, and it's still not allowed for them. So it's mostly about women or old people.
Then coming back to education, I know that because of the war, there were a lot of donations from different countries for medicine, food, blankets, clothing, things that the older people need. And I understand that volunteers were risking their lives sometimes, going closer to the war lines. But how about collection and transportation of books? I know a guy from St. Louis who, had a girlfriend in Romania, who at periods was collecting books from St. Louis to ship them to poorer villages in Romania.
Mhm.
Is there something similar for Ukraine?
It's a really good question because I'm not sure. I never heard information about it because mostly the most popular is kind of help with products or with something which is life necessary. But as usual, I know that some universities could transport their own books from war action territory to the new place of their location, but I don't think that it helps for students a lot because all students they are in different parts of the world. As you know, in my university, they also could took some books from our library, and now they try to scan these books to electronic version and to share with students if they need it. But it's not really popular kind of help, I guess.
I was thinking that if those children are educated from early stages in their lives in English, do they have just manuals from the government? How do they learn English? Do they have manuals from the government?
They just we have just school classes. I mean,
Right. So they have
English.
manuals,
Yes.
books for classes.
Mostly yes. Mostly we have these.
Standard books from the
Yes, yes, we have these mostly. They're not really the best editions as usual. Even if they are new, I think a lot of teachers think that approach for teaching is not so new as usual in these books. But we have these books. We have textbooks and something like this for children. And a lot of schools, as you know, now they're trying to buy Oxford edition or some kind of foreign edition for learning English because, as usual, books for primary school they're half in Ukrainian and half of English. But some teachers want to have only English edition, and they try to find kind of foreign, British or American editions for children.
Because this is a method of teaching. Just
Yeah.
Dropping somebody in the pool of English
Yes.
language.
Sure. But mostly, actually, as usual, government can pay only for Ukrainian books, and children shouldn't buy this book. They school just give it for them. But if teacher wants to have better edition, so as usual, parents have to buy it by themselves, any kind of foreign editions.
So maybe you can start a collection of books that could be sent to Ukraine.
I think so. That's a good idea.
There's so many cheap books that you can find here, and children, when they start learning from cartoons, gestures, movement. The baby says, "Ouch." You have the no, really.
Yeah, I know.
For early stages in your life, right? That's how I learned French the first time in my life before school, because we had during communism these publications from France, Rahan and Vaillant and Pif, Pil, and I saw them that the dog and the cat were fighting to each other, and they had bubbles in which they said something, but you could understand what that meant because of the movement of the bodies, right? So you don't need a teacher. You need the mind of the child who's curious.
I think it's a good idea. About books.
Okay. Well, let's give her another round of applause. So what's the future? Everybody's asking your president, will you win the war? Do you still believe in winning the war? And he says yes.
So I believe, but I don't know when it will be.
Yes.
So I don't believe that it will be soon.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Russia has so many resources. They are replenishing their
Yeah, and other countries helping.
yes. Yes.